I was adopted out pretty early. I was adopted out at 9 days old, and I was adopted not into a Black family or a Latin family, which is my background. I'm Black, Mexican, and indigenous. I was adopted into a family of a single mother who is Asian American and white. And one of the blessings I had in being adopted by a family that came from the islands was there was a working knowledge of queer and trans kind of identities. Native Hawaiian trans folks, as we call them in the Western world, are referred to as mahus. And so there's like an existing framework for that type of gender variance. So I started kind of coming out pretty early and exploring my gender and exploring my sexuality at like the age appropriate times, but in very queer ways. Unlike most folks who had families who weren't affirming, my family was entirely affirming. So from the time I was 5 years old, I was affirmed in my gender, both expression and the diversity of my gender. Like, I'm very fluid in my gender. Even now, I don't identify as a man or a woman. I identify as two-spirit, which is the term for Native American folks who embody both spirits, both masculine and feminine. So I'm a butch queen, but I'm also a femme daddy. So, you know, there's a bit of both going on in me. And I feel like having access to parents who are affirming of that was one of like the most invaluable things. And it defies the stereotype of being in Black spaces, being in Asian spaces, and dealing with homophobia. Like, I didn't actually deal with homophobia inside of my home or transphobia inside of my home. I dealt with it when I left my home. So then home became where I stayed, and I became kind of a shut-in. And my family really quickly realized that although they had created the safest environment possible for me, there was nothing that they could do about the outside world, that the world would always exist around me and always have threats